Here we're going to look at writing the equation of a line through 2 points when you're given a word problem. In number 1, when Joe began work at his new job, his salary was $36,700. 4 years later, his salary was $41,200. Find a linear model for Joe's salary and define your variables. So, to write a linear model, remember we should be thinking y equals mx plus b. Okay, so that's what you want to think about. You need to find the slope and the y-intercept, or the b value. So in this problem, as you read through it, notice they didn't tell you the rate at which his salary was changing. They didn't tell you that his salary increased by $2,000 every year. So they're not giving you the slope. You need to find it. So you take the information they give you. Notice that they tell you his salary went from $36,700 to $41,200. The time frame it happened in was 4 years. So to find the slope, you take your ending amount, $41,200, take away the $36,700 over 4 minus 0. Now I'm writing it as 4 minus 0 just to show that you could say 0 represents the year when he had his starting salary of $36,700. If you just divide it by 4, it'd be the same idea because they said 4 years later. So we know that's the time that went by. So when you find that slope, you end up with $1,125 per year. We subtracted dollars in the numerator, years in the denominator. So now we want to write the equation of a line. We have the slope. Now we need to find the starting value, or the y-intercept. And this is the essential part of this question. We want to make this as easy as we can. So when we define our variables, you want to look at this 36,700 number. You can treat that as your starting value. So that means that we are 0 years and the salary was $36,700. So when we define the variables, okay, I'm just going to say let S for salary. So let S represent salary. And we'll say X will represent the number of years since he started the job. Okay? Or the number of years at the job. So when you write the equation now, because we defined X to be the year since he started, that's actually very important, and I don't want to gloss over it. If X is the number of years he started at the job, his starting salary was $36,700. So right away, we know that's the B value. So we could say, for our equation, salary equals starting at $36,700 and then adding $1,125 every X value every year. So in 1 year, it'll increase by $1,125. In 2 years, it'll increase $1,125 twice. In 5 years, it'll increase $1,125 times 5. And when I say it, I mean his salary, his total salary. Okay, so there's the equation of that line. Okay, number 2 is a similar type of problem. When we read that, according to the data from the New York State Census Bureau, the population of Steuben County went from 99,011 to 96,281 from 2010 to 2017. And they tell us to write a linear equation to model the population, and we're going to define our variables. So again, what we need to look at here is they don't tell you what the slope is. They don't say, for example, that the population decreased by 200 people per year. They just give you 2 different populations in 2 different years. So essentially what they're giving you is 2 points. So write the equation of a line through the 2 points. So it should make sense when you try to find the slope, you take the change in population, so there'll be that many people per, when you subtract the years, it'll be per year. So people per year makes sense for the units. So that's how you can figure out what you subtract in the numerator and denominator. Now I'll put the answer up here just for the sake of time, but I want you to work your way through it and try it. Okay, so you end up with a population change of negative 390 people per year. So the population is decreasing by 390 people per year. Okay, and then to write the equation, we have to define our variables first. I say let P be the population, and then X, that's the time that goes by, right? So X has to do with the years. And again, this is an extremely crucial step. If you say let X be the number of years since 2010, then right away we have 2010 being the starting year when X is 0, and we know the population was 99,011. So we know the B value right away if you say we're going to define X as the number of years since 2010. If you said let X be the number of years since 2017, then you would have more work to do because you'd have to backtrack to 2010. So let X be the number of years since we started in 2010. It's our earlier year. Okay, so then your equation, you have everything you need. You have the starting population was 99,011 and then decreased by 390 every year. So there's your equation. Okay, and then number 3, pause the video and try that, and I'll put the answer up. We went from in 2010, we have 42 employees, then 8 years later, we have 95. They're not telling you that the number of employees increased by 10 employees per year. So they're giving you 2 points, so you have to find the rate of change or the slope. Okay, so when you do that, you get 6.625 employees per year. So it looks like they were adding 6.625 employees every year. Okay, that's the rate at which they were adding the employees. So now when you define your variables, again, we have 2010 as our earlier year. So I just said E is the number of employees and X equals the number of years since 2010. So right away, that 42 is your starting value. Okay, so you'll notice with these questions, when they say to define the variables yourself, take it easy on yourself and let the first year they give you be the t of 0 or the x value of 0. And it makes your starting value something that they told you in the problem. That makes it a lot easier. So moving on to the second page, okay, number 4. Okay, so I would say pause the video and read this, and I'm going to move on. Okay, so when you read the problem, it wants you to write an equation representing the number of arrests from 2016 to 18. Well, when you read through all this information, in 2018, there was this number of arrests. And then in 2016, so 2 years earlier, there were approximately 10,000 less arrests. Okay, so those are the 2 values we're looking at. The 1 every 48 seconds, the number in 2017, those are all just noise in the question. They say to write it from 2016 to 18, write that equation. So the only values you care about were what happened in 2016 and 2018. Okay, so to write the equation of the linear model, find the slope. So they didn't tell you that the number of arrests increased by 5,000 per year. You have to find the slope. So you take the change in the arrests divided by the 2 years that went by, and that gives you about 5,059 arrests per year. So it looks like the number of arrests over those 2 years increased by just over 5,000 arrests every year. Now that is just a small time frame, so you're not going to want to draw too many conclusions from that. We're just using that information to write a line. Okay, and then when you define your variables, again, if I said let A be the number of arrests and X the year since 2016, because that's your starting year here, you have everything you need. 653,249 plus 5,059 times X number of years that went by. Okay, so that is looking at how to write the equation through 2 points when you're given them in a word problem.